and house sitting is. You might be thinking, enjoy pets. Well, that seems to be obvious. It is one requirement. I'm not so sure it's the biggest one. Even if you would take great care of someone's home, but you're not affectionate with the pets, it's not a thing you can fake. Personalities of all pets differ. I took care of one cat who only hissed at me and hid under the covers when I stopped in for a daily visit. I had to laugh. I even came with my tried and true dried liver treat, but no, he didn't want any part of it. You might say, appreciate other people's homes, and that's another requirement. You will not earn great reviews if you don't admire some aspects about the home. If you are careless and you leave a messy home when you're done with your pet sit and house sit, I guarantee you're not going to earn a good review. Even if your host leaves something messy or less than clean, when you take care of it as if it was yours, they will notice. And you get great reviews by going beyond the minimum expectations. Gosh, you might say you have to be organized at home before you leave. Well, it's yet another requirement. When you leave, when you plan to be gone for a long period of time, or even indefinitely, you must do something about the home and stuff and bills you leave behind. It's time for a revamping of your lifestyle and your financial management. Are you ready to downsize? Or I like to call it right size. Right size, well, psychologically, it's a process, and it takes time and thought to prepare for your future and your now. Organizing for travel also takes planning. So there's a lot of moving parts. When do you want to go? How long do you want to stay? What do you want to experience while you're gone? It's a choreography of travel and pet sitting gigs. That's the magic that you can learn. The most important requirement, though, are you ready? Are you ready? The most important requirement is this: the ability to be flexible. And no, I'm not talking about bendy like in yoga poses. When you arrive at a pet sit and you find out that your pet needs a pill every day, and you have to learn how to use a pill shooter for a cat. And by the way, she spits it up sometimes, so she needs another so watch her for a few minutes after shooting. Or maybe, just maybe, your host's flight is delayed and keeps you from your travel plans, your next gig. Things change, and if you're not flexible, there's a big challenge in how you're going to enjoy the world of pet sitting. Well, what about a rash on the dog's belly and needing a vet appointment? If something goes wrong with the plumbing or the heating or the stove, what do you do when you're in a foreign country? These all are situations that actually happen to us. And you know those annoyances that happen to you at home? They can happen to you anywhere you are in the world. Because, you know what, stuff breaks and it wears out. Pets get ill like we do sometimes. A travel plan might need to be changed for you, for your reasons, or the host's. So why do you need to be flexible? Because changes happen. I guarantee it. We thought we had everything all planned out, and then suddenly we're faced with COVID. But you know what? We figured it out, and we survived, and we are back home, and people are still pet sitting. Is it a real thing? Of course. Of course. Do strangers really give you the keys to their home and sometimes their car and take off for a month or two? Really? But yes, I am proof of it. My husband and I, makes a great honeymoon. Dan and I took off for a 1-year pet sitting adventure right after we married. We had pet sits from 10 days to 2 months to enjoy. We lived out of a carry-on suitcase and a backpack each. And we arrived, knocked on the door, or were picked up, and had a quick tour with our host. And sometimes in an hour or even the next day, they left for distant shores of Hong Kong, New Zealand, or Trinidad. Flexibility was the key to success. And, of course, a hefty dose of trust. You can't get anywhere if you can't find it within your heart to trust other people, to trust that our host would tell us the truth. It was really hard for Dan, who enjoys routine, and easy for me because I love change. When unplanned things happened, our reactions were different. Dan decided, well in advance, to laugh about his need for routine and called himself Flexi Dan. I was like, okay, let's make a new plan, yay. Yes, plan A, plan B, plan C. Of course, we had done our homework. As a matter of fact, we did a lot of homework. And to help you get ready, we have a free web class called Prepare to Pet Sit and Travel. I want you to have some inside knowledge that saves you a lot of time. One single idea in this training can save you hours at the airport, at airport controls, coming in and going out of the country. It's a pretty amazing idea. Well, the process. Well, it took several months for us to figure out how to get pet sitting gigs and to practice. We have some tips and insights for you. And while it's true that everything happens at the right timing, gaining time in the pursuit of pet sitting and house sitting assignments is vital. I mean, how much is your time worth? Competition grows, but you can be at the forefront. Remember, flexibility is key. I can't emphasize enough how the number one most important quality for pet sitting and house sitting is flexibility. Are you the kind of person who has time to investigate the details, all the teeny tiny details? Well, you can save a lot of time by following our trainings and investigate at the same time. Of course, some of our trainings are free and some are an investment. So when you compare the cost of the trainings from the financial standpoint to saving $100 to $300 a day in lodging costs, you can see the value right away. Not only will you save time, but you save money, a lot of money. It's like staying at an Airbnb, but free. And as much as Airbnb is known for promoting the sharing economy, so pet sitting is a movement. It's a global phenomenon, and it's cool to be part of a happy and helpful movement. Yes, even though now it's somewhat of a secret, you can join this movement and not miss out. Would COVID stop you? Only to the extent that there may be border requirements, and then if you fulfill the requirements, you can travel across every border. Pet sitting is much like staying at an Airbnb, but instead of paying with money, you pay for your service. In the days before pet sitting was a thing, people had to board their pets in a pet hotel. And let me say that some are 5-star accommodations and others are simply kennels, and every dog is separated from all the others. It's kind of like a prison. I don't know how else to describe it. Or a humane society shelter. Have you ever been through one of those? With a different, these dog hotels have a different sign. They don't say shelter, but they do say dog hotel. They're heartbreaking and they're pretty costly for pet-loving parents. Sometimes the overnight for a pet could be as much as $50 to $100. Well, when you add that to your cost of travel, to your cost of lodging somewhere else, it gets to be onerous, very, very heavy. So if you have fur babies, you can certainly apply to be a host, and we can show you how to do that. Find a worthy pet sitter and travel with great peace of mind. just take note of this. Flexibility cannot be overemphasized in the process of finding a pet sitter. People are hungry to travel. People are hungry for travel, just like you. Do you know in the United States alone, there are more than 67 million pet owners? It's estimated globally that more than 2 billion people in the world own pets. And some own more than one. Of course, not all pet owners want to travel, but millions would travel in a heartbeat if they only knew about professional, verified, experienced, reliable, and trustworthy pet and house sitters. Pet owners are hungry to travel. They are healthy, active, and ready to go. If only, yes, if only they could be sure their homes and pets are well cared for while they're gone. From the host standpoint, they can travel on vacation with a free heart, knowing that their beloved fur babies are well cared for. The first pet sit we did that we ever accepted taught me several lessons I'll never forget. It was on an island not far from our home in the Pacific Northwest. We wanted to meet the people and the dogs in advance to be sure we were a good fit. Face to face when possible. When you can do this, it helps both parties feel more confident in the entire process. The hosts want to know if we like, love, enjoy their pets. Pet sitters want to know the same thing. Will they be happy taking care of the pets? So these gal's home was located about a mile from the ferry and overlooked the Salish Sea. That's the original name for Puget Sound. Because Dan had to work that week, I took it on solo, but we both met with the hosts. The dogs were so cute and friendly. The home was unusual because the owner had spent time in India. Every wall was a different bright color and the floor was bright turquoise. I had fun in the kitchen because I have never seen a complete collection of spices like the ones, even more than I have normally used, including the African spices that I used to make some African Ethiopian food. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun hanging out. The only thing is I missed Dan because he was at work. So the week I was to be there, the host picked me up from the ferry. They showed me the pet routine of the food and walking and then left. The biggest challenge was the dogs had no boundaries. Cora was the baby, a white poodle, and Max was the Yorkie older. They barked at every passerby. It was really, let's just say, I don't know how the people really lived that way. So especially those with dogs, then they went crazy and threw themselves against the window. They were like out of control. Walking dogs is essential. As we all know, a tired and exercised dog is a happy dog. Walking these dogs was hell. They had collars with leashes, and their habit was to pull the owners around. And every time they saw another dog, they went crazy, especially Cora, who jumped about 4 feet straight up and down like a cartoon, but it really wasn't funny. Even a dog that weighs just 30 pounds can pull and jerk really hard. But I toughed it out. Why? Well, the hosts and pets counted on me. I didn't sign up for my own comfort. I had a goal. I had an obligation. And in any case, it was part of the gig was totally fun. I thought about that quality I wanted to improve, flexibility. Oh boy, did I get a chance to do that. On the day that I was to leave, I cleaned the house as my usual practice, walked and fed the dogs as my usual practice, washed the sheets and dried the sheets and remade the bed, that's my usual practice, and then left at the end of the day. The house was located about a mile downhill to the ferry, so it was easy to take my roll-on suitcase to the ferry where I was going to get on and then go across the water to Mukilteo, where Dan was to meet me. And when I got there, I waited, but he wasn't there. And that was quite unusual for Dan. If you know Dan, you know he's almost always early. So I waited, and he still didn't come, and I waited, and he didn't come, and, so finally I called, and I say, "Hey, hon, hi, where are you?" And he says, "Well, I'm fixing my dinner." "But are you coming to pick me up?" And there was a long silence. "Hon," he said, "today is Tuesday." I was supposed to leave on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Long silence. Oh crap. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So I scoot really quickly back onto the ferry. This thing called flexibility had me doing kinds of readjustments in my mental plans. So I went back on the ferry, and they were getting ready to leave for Whidbey Island. And I just made it back on, which is good. I wouldn't have to wait an hour for the next ferry, so that was perfect. So I got back to the ferry, walked up a mile uphill to my house, rolling the carry-on behind me. And fortunately, the key was in the outside lockbox, so I was able to move back in and stay another day. Cora and Max were overjoyed to see me, of course. Lessons? My lessons. Check the calendar. I can survive untrained dogs. Living in different homes can be pleasurable. In this one, it was a visual treat to look out over the water and the Cascade Mountains. And it was gustatory. The spices to cook with in the kitchen were just amazing. And the host, so kind, they left me a bottle of wine and a loaf of local artisan bread. And I can be grateful for all the blessings, like the key in the outside lockbox, instead of left inside the house. And to summarize my lessons, stay flexible. For me, in this first assignment ever, the delights outweighed the hassles. I was hooked. And you're not going to believe what happened next. Well, Dan and I decided to go on pet sits together, on local ones, just to be sure that we really were comfortable with the actuality of, rather than just the written words and dreaming about it, to see if we liked it. So we felt it was time for the big adventure. We wanted to travel long and far. So combining travel plans, retirement for sure, consolidating, letting go and storing for several months, we right-sized our lives. It was a challenge to let go of the accumulation of years, including inherited things like everything in the kitchen that Dan's mom left him was still in his kitchen. So I left storage cubes in San Diego with my treasures, and Dan had some things he didn't want to let go of. The new renter in Dan's house bought all of his furniture, so we didn't need to make any decisions about those things. We put into storage what we wanted to return to. In retrospect, keeping anything in storage is mostly just a waste of money. It's just postponed decisions. So during this process, I wrote a book called The Secret of Right Sizing. I'll put a link below. And it's a guide to redesigning your life. And it shares a little bit of our journey and helps encourage you when you're ready to go about the things that need to be taken care of, especially if you go on a long trip. We got married and gave our homes back to the landlords. Each of us had sold our home years before, so we got married after 7 years of being solo. We prepared in advance and lined up house and pet sitting arrangements in France, Scotland, England, France again, Switzerland, and Italy. We had no specific plans for returning. We wanted to go as long as it was fun. So the big adventure? Well, gosh, just from the point of finances, the rent we saved funded our travels and the car rental expenses. if we had to rent a car, sometimes they gave us one. The food costs are about the same wherever we went. The host paid for the utilities and internet, not us. We had an international cell phone service for 2 phones, and we used WhatsApp for free calls, text, and photos with our families and our hosts. We were free. It was a year-long honeymoon. So we took only a carry-on, as I said, and a backpack each. Can you see yourself living for a year with such little luggage? So we saw the unexpected, the delightful, the beautiful and artistic side of France and Scotland and England. There were many trips around our pet sitting gigs. At times we took the dogs with us wherever we went, as they were well behaved. We visited chateaus and cathedrals and port cities and beaches. We saw Monet's gardens, the Eiffel Tower, Honfleur, St. Andrews, Kelpies, the Falkirk and the Hairy Coos in Scotland. It was amazing. Things that you can see in travel documentaries, we actually saw them ourselves. The place where Outlander was filmed, we actually went into that castle. In March of 2020, COVID closed the borders. We were on the last Eurostar train from London to Paris and heading for our pet sit in France near Lyon. Our host trip to India had been canceled the night before. They greeted us with tears in our eyes because it was such a long-planned trip and a gift to Monique for her 60th birthday. I believe we were divinely guided when we connected the prior year with Bernard and Monique. They opened their home to us for the duration of COVID, not knowing that it could be months or even years. They had a complete 2-bedroom apartment with a bathroom, full kitchen, living room on the 2nd floor of their home. We were outside of a small village called Châtillon, located about 25 miles from Lyon. And for 4 months, we were stuck. We were in confinement in the Beaujolais vineyards of France. And about the only thing we could do besides grocery runs was walk. So we walked 5 to 8 miles a day through the vineyards, next to the riverbed, around the castle, the medieval village, the Golden Stone Quarry, and through miles and miles of vineyards. What an experience. That was our lockdown in France, our COVID experience. It's probably why we're pretty comfortable thinking that no matter what happens to you while you pet sit, there is a way for you to be safe and comfortable and cared for and even delighted. We understood the global panic of COVID would be our challenge to our freedom to return the States at will. So we decided to return to Washington when we could, and finally we were able to come back and make a nest and use it as our home base when traveling was open again. So in summary, flexibility is a quality that you learn with your experience. However, there's a caveat, and I will have to say, I had to laugh. Your experience has to change you. You can't repeat the same experience many times and believe you have mastered flexibility. When I lived in Africa, I worked in a French bank. I heard the director of the bank tell a client this thing. The client was a kind of a know-it-all. He was a jerk, really. He was self-proclaimed, he just knew all the answers to all the questions. And the director said to him, what? Un âne à 40 ans est toujours un âne. It translates like this: a 40-year-old donkey is still a donkey. I gasped. He was telling the client, who we've been trained is always right, that all of his years of experience didn't change him. He was still a donkey. Wow. The fundamental reason we have created our classes is to help you shortcut your learning curve. Therefore, you save time and go where you want to travel. What do you think if you stopped and looked at the real value of saving time? What's the value of your hour? How many hours of research would you have to put in on the internet? Wouldn't it feel good to put your travel goals on your calendar this year instead of some unknown future? We'll have a resource listed below, or you can just go onto Amazon and type up The Secret of Right Sizing. It tells a little bit about the trip, but also about preparing to travel, preparing to right size your life, for whatever reasons you want to right size. And people have told me that they're able to finally let go of things that have built up over the years. It's a wonderful, what it's about. It's about freedom. So I invite you to come into the freedom game. We're playing the freedom game for real because, you know what? We get one chance to go around, not another. Let's make this one count.